Hey, what's up, guys? If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm a huge fan and supporter of Firecracker Farm. Alex, the owner, is not only an incredible human being, but he makes an incredible product. And that is why we could not be happier that they are sponsoring the Shoot Me Straight podcast. Each guest, when they come in, will get a sample of Firecracker Farm so they can take it back and enjoy. And I can tell you, to each person that we've given it to, they have not been disappointed. You can put these, put this salt on your favorite food, favorite beverage. I've even seen people put it in their coffee. They love it. There's an assortment of heat, so if you don't like it too hot, they definitely have that taken care of with some mild flavors. And then it goes all the way to extreme heat if you like to sweat. So if you guys are interested in purchasing some, go to firecracker.farm. All right, thank you for listening, and God bless.
Welcome to Shoot Me Straight. Dave Fields today. Eddie Gallagher's out again. He should be with us on our next episode, though. Surgery went well. He's doing good. Today I have Jason Becker, who's a local. He has his own podcast, which is...
What the Hell Do I Know with JB.
Awesome. I love that. Give us some of your background. So you've only been here 9 years?
Been here, yeah, about 9 years now.
Okay.
I came from the Atlanta area. You know, my wife and I actually grew up together. We were high school sweethearts, and we started out at Eagles Landing High School. So go Golden Eagles. And so I was a senior, and she was a sophomore, and we met. I was looking for a Friday night date. She's a cute girl, and worked my magic to get. That's a whole other story to tell you how I got that date. But yeah, I worked my magic to try to get the date, and then the next thing you know, I had the rest of my life. So
how about that?
Didn't think that was it, because I was a senior. I was going off to school, and funny, as a dad now of kids that are 21, 19, and 17, I think to myself, I would never let my daughters date a senior in high school when they were a sophomore. So what was our parents thinking, But it ended up working out. So we really kind of landed there on the south side of Atlanta. We went off to the University of Georgia together. My wife kind of caught me in education. So she was a few years behind me. I was working all the time in school, paying for school. I refused to take on debt. And I really felt like if I could work really hard and pay off my classes as I go, I'd be better off for it. So I took some student loans, but just minimal. Yeah. Just enough to get me by.
Are you glad you did that now?
I'm super glad I did it. I mean, student loans, I know people that are still paying off student loans at my age. I'm 48. So I know people still paying off student loans. And student loans, what most kids don't know is it's the one debt you can't get rid of in the U.S. I mean, you can declare bankruptcy and get rid of all sorts of debt, right? You can't get rid of student loans. They stay with you forever. And so it's a debt that I'm glad I took the least amount for, especially when you look at where colleges are today. I mean, you look at what AI is doing and return on investment on degrees. I mean, I almost feel like unless you're you really need to look if you're going to college. If your parents have the money and it's a great time, and you can grow and mature at a great pace. I don't discount anybody for getting additional education, but if you're a young person today, and I counsel young people that will come in and say, wait a second, I want to go get a college degree. And I'm like, man, you need to really think about it, because you could get $60,000, $70,000 in debt getting a college degree now, and it's marketing. Yeah. Well, AI is going to take all that over. So what are you doing? So I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, and I think there's some to say when you are working and going. I did the same too.
Sure.
When we first got married, we were both working and getting our masters at the same time. Yeah. And we were broke, right? And so I'd had to choose, hey, if I'm going to take 2 classes, that means I have to work more in order to be paying it off as we go along.
That's right.
So it was actually helpful. I'm thankful for it now. It was tough then, but, man, it made you just hustle.
Well, the hard times are always what makes you better. It's always take joy in the trials is what Scripture will talk about. Take joy in those hardships. And that's hard to say, because when you're in it, you just feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant, and you just don't see it. You want it all taken away. But when it's all said and done, there's so many lessons that are learned that you can apply to your life and get better for it. So I'm thankful for those hard times. I'd go to school, at the University of Georgia. I would go to school at 7:00 class, which would be hard to get up, hard to go to. And I'd run all my classes until about noon, 1 o'clock, eat something, and then I would drive about 45 minutes away to go to the freight lines, and I'd work on the loading docks at night until 10, 11 o'clock at night, come back 45 minutes, go straight to bed, maybe get a little food in me, and then get up and do it all again the next day. And I just did that because those loading docks were paying like, 10, 11, 12 an hour, which to kids today sounds like chump change. But when it's $4.25 was your minimum wage back then, you know, that was huge. And I could actually pay my bills, pay my notes, save some money, pay my education, do things like that. And I worked from there into a concrete company with Blue Circle Materials, and I started working in concrete as like a late manager. Again, everything I wanted to do was nights, so I could go to school during the day. I felt like the professors were better. I was around more of my kids my age. I was at the University of Georgia in Athens. I just wanted to have as much of a normal experience as I could, so I worked nights as much as I could. Okay. But working with the concrete plant was great because it gave me a lot of real world experience in managing other people and closing a plant down and being responsible for that and the trucks and again the employees and jobs and things of that nature. And so when I graduated, they offered me a position as a plant manager in Atlanta. And so I went and did that, and I was over. Next thing you know, it's really more of assistant plant manager. This is a large plant, probably 50 pieces of equipment, 50 employees at that one plant. We were managing jobs. So I come in at 2 in the morning. So I switched. So it'd be 2 in the morning, you get jobs gone. And then I would leave at like noon, and I'd go home, eat something. I just turned my days around, right? And I just closed dark out blinds or whatever they are, so that I could go to bed and then get up and do 2 in the mornings until they made me a plant manager. And then eventually they were bringing me into the corporate office. And my wife's family, we were about to get married, so she was going to law school, and she's graduating college and about to head into law school. And my wife's dad pulled me aside and said, "Hey, our sanitation company's growing. I'd like for you to come inside the sanitation, see what you're doing in operations. I really feel like a lot of that could work. Would you come in and kind of learn to replace me?" And I was 22, 23 years old, something like that. And I thought, man, this is the best opportunity I'll ever have, even over education, to work with this entrepreneur that had started with one truck and had built it up to about 10 or 12,000 customers in sanitation. Wow. And I get a chance to see what he's doing. I mean, he was a massive influence in my life, a massive mentor for me. And so I thought, let me jump into that world. And so I went to my bosses and I said, hey, I'm going to resign here. The president of the company, actually, they had locations all across the state, actually all across the country. The president of Blue Circle Materials in America came to my location to talk me out of leaving.
Oh, wow.
And I said, man, there's no way I can do this. Like, how long can I learn from you? That was the question. I said, could I walk? He goes, we're going to move you in the corporate office. I said, could I sit beside you every day and learn what you know? And he said, well, not right now. And I said, then I got to go. I'm 23. I got to take the chance now.
How come you asked him that?
Because that's what I wanted. I wanted to learn from the best. There was something in me that knew that I didn't know it all, which is weird because there are times I thought I did at that age for sure. But there's something in me that just knew that I wanted more. I wanted to learn from, again, different thinkers. And to have that opportunity at such a young age, I couldn't pass it up. Yeah. And so I jumped ship, worked inside it. Our company is called CLM Sanitation. And if you're in the south side of Atlanta, you probably have some of our cans still. But, we sold that in 2009. So my wife eventually, her dad talked her to leave her law firm and come on as the CFO and replace her mother.
Wow.
And so she and I took that company over, and we took it from 10,000 customers to over 100,000. We were the largest residential hauler in the state of Georgia, one of the largest privately held companies in the Southeast for sanitation. Wow. And people just kept knocking on our door long enough and hard enough. And with the right offer, my father-in-law was living here in Sandestin. Okay. And we were up there running the business. And I called him. I said, Dave, we got this offer here I need to talk to you about. And he said, all right, what is it? And I told him. He said, well, Jason, the hungry pig gets fed, the greedy pig gets slaughtered. It might be time for us to go. We couldn't have been a better time, too, because in 2009 or 2008, the market crashed. Yeah. We sell in 2009 with a ton of cash on hand. Yeah. And I just started going to the courthouse steps, first of the month, second Tuesday of the month, different counties, and just buying homes left and right. Nice. That were probably worth $80,000 that day. Pre-08, probably worth $150,000. I was buying them for $30,000, $40,000. Wow. I was putting, new flooring, paint, maybe a new fridge, something like that, and I just put a renter in it.
And you had the capital to hold it.
I had the capital to hold it.
Yeah.
I just buy them straight up. And in fact, I own most of them today. I still own, and all the appreciation has since eclipsed where they were and gone through the roof. And I call it my mailbox money. So I have people that run that. At the time, I'm somebody that believes I've got to jump in and do it with my hands. So, I didn't really replace flooring. I got flooring guys, but I would bring in a fridge or replace a microwave or paint something or really manage it myself until eventually we got other managers to do it.
Dude, it's wild. Your story is very similar to mine.
That's crazy.
But when one of my first companies that I went and worked for a software company, and every place that I worked when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was always watching the CEO. I was watching them, and it was a master class in how to run businesses.
Yeah.
And I would learn from everything. And every CEO had different ways, but I remember the software company and how this one CEO ran it. I was just a lowly data tech guy.
Right.
But what I'm really doing is just studying how he does stand-ups and how he manages the sales team and the marketing team. And I was learning from them. I think that's a lot of guys don't understand. It's like, man, you don't have to be some brilliant guy. Like, if you got hustle, you got grit.
Yeah.
And you start learning from other people around stuff like that.
Yeah, the wise person, what is the wise person? The foolish person learns from their mistakes. The wise person learns from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for sure. I mean, if you can lean into that and go, hey, I see what they're doing. I want to replicate that. You know, I always say, take the good, leave the bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But then also when you do get wins, you have that so ingrained in yourself of hustling, and it's not like, okay, just go spend all this money and buy Lamborghinis or whatever. It's like, no, you have such a frugal mindset already installed. You're like, okay, I can live a little bit nicer, but really I look at money now, it's like money's an investment tool too.
100%.
And so you're going, oh no, I don't want to go blow it on clothes and all this other stuff. Man, this is my tokens to play with. This is in this game of business.
Yeah.
And so you're going to the courthouse and starting to buy up properties.
Yeah. So
brilliant.
Dave, you put out a really great point, because my father-in-law, one thing he taught me when we sold our business is that we had a spigot. So, every month people would pay us, and residential garbage, our average rate was like $13, $14 a month.
Okay.
And per customer, we'd bill quarterly. So you'd bill it out, $36 a month, $42, or $36 a quarter, $42 a quarter, right? But you'd bill it in advance. So it was an incredible business, and it's almost recession-proof, because it's like a utility bill. Yeah. Everybody needs their garbage picked up. And so it was a really incredible business to be involved in, but it's also heavy on the personnel side, heavy on the operational side, heavy on all of those things. And so we were actually, what really was the catalyst to get us attention in the market was we were the first really on the East Coast that was doing it. I wouldn't say the first. We were one of the first that started doing automation way back in 2007, 2008. We started buying trucks with the one-arm bandits, what you would call, that would go by. And so it'd get rid of the guys on the back, and we could pay our drivers better rates. Yeah. And you just pick up the garbage, and it's a learning curve, but we started doing that in really great parts of metro Atlanta area. And so you saw really when you can reduce your COGS at all and show that profitability, the other companies start calling. We were featured in some pretty big waste age magazines and things like that for doing for adopting some of this new technology that was coming along. Yeah. And so that helped us get there. Not to mention we started getting all the city bids that were up and down the corridor of I-85 and I-75. And so all of those things helped. And while I sit here and talk about that my wife and I did stuff, I have to go back because we had incredible people too. Yeah. I think we hired really well. I mean, we had an incredible team. I had a great VP. I had a great person in accounting. I had great sales and customer service reps. And so, and our drivers, we really worked hard to train our drivers. And, the people is really in any organization, especially in a service organization, your people are who really
you can only do so much yourself, but creating a culture is huge. I think one of the things though that a lot of people don't understand is some of the best businesses aren't the flashiest ones.
Right.
It's not the ones in magazines. Right. And a lot of businesses will show, hey, we're making, they're flashing these big numbers, but you don't see their costs associated with it. And so you could have something that's got a lot of revenue coming in, but it's got a lot of revenue coming out.
Oh yeah, like 40%, on payroll or whatever it is. You're going, brother, you ain't gonna make it there, man. You ain't gonna make it there. Yeah. I see a lot of that. So after we sold the business, my father-in-law said to me, he said, we had this spigot that was coming in and providing us all of this, income every month. Well, once you sell it, you get a chunk of it, but what are you gonna do with it? Yeah. I mean, you put in a savings account, you can put in equities, but I'm too young at the time. I was way too young in my 30s, and and I had cash on hand, and my wife and I had gained interest of the company, but the lion's share of it was my mother-in-law and father-in-law's, right? Sure. Because it was their company that they started. One truck, 500 customers, 1987. Yeah. And so when we were thinking, what are we going to do? And I need to find another spigot. I need to find another thing. And so rental income was big. I love the idea of, when you buy property in this country, I think it means something. Yeah. Owning land in this country, I think means something. You can do so much. You can hold it. Mm-hmm. I can flip it. I can renovate it and rent it. Mm-hmm. I can do so many different things with real estate. And so we got into that rental market and buying the homes off the courthouse steps. And then I bought some short sales in Athens, Georgia, back in my own stomping grounds, and some college station units. I did some in Knoxville and bought some units. So I had some complexes.
Mostly in the South?
Pretty much in the Southeast. Places that I could drive to, places I could get to quicker, places I could put my hands on it quicker. I wanted to be able to, especially when I'm learning the business, I wanted to be able to be in it. Not, which, as a business owner, you want to have people that can do it for you and be able to analyze it. But when you're getting started, especially in something new, you really need to know what you're doing. So, I changed toilets. I, fixed all the, which people would say, what do you mean? You've got all this money that you sold this business. Why are you in a bathroom, like changing, toilet paper holders and whatever? And I'm like, because it's what you got to do. Mm-hmm. You got to know that business. So even in Athens, I used to do all the turns myself, because student housing, it's a year lease, but it's 12 months. And so when that last group leaves a unit, you've got 1 week, maybe 2 weeks to turn all the units at one time. So I just live in Athens for 2 weeks, and we'd paint units and get carpet cleaners in and clean it all and get it turned so that the new people coming in would have a product that they could be happy about living in.
What's nice too is when you can do it, right? Yeah, at first you just have to do it a lot of times in startups. Yeah. But when you can do it, you're also the backup if it comes down to it. That's right. You can go over there and make sure that customer doesn't have a bad experience.
Well, and then the other thing too is that this is a side note for those young entrepreneurs is when you know how to do it, then nobody can get over on you on what it costs to do. Yeah. So when you know how to change a tire, when you know what it costs to paint a house, when you understand what it is to fix a appliance or change out a sink or a faucet or whatever it is, what that work. You may not be as efficient as them, but you understand the hours or the minutes that it costs. And so if somebody's trying to double charge you or whatever it is, you can start to say, hold on a second, guy. I know how this works. I've been in, I know that game and I can, work it out. So that is, kind of selfishly another reason to know how to do everything is that nobody can, kind of get over on you because they're out there.
What's hard is sometimes entrepreneurs they know how to do things, but then they don't begin to back up after that and let other people do it so that they can work on it.
That's super important.
It's a trap.
There are a lot of folks I meet that don't know how to let go. Mm-hmm. They want to hold on to, nobody can do it as good as me. Well, that's true. Nobody can, but you're missing so many other areas if you don't let it go. Yeah. You're really like, is it worth the nickel you save to do it yourself? Or is it worth so you need to find trusted people that you can come alongside with, whether that's a vendor or somebody that you're bringing into your organization. And so I was fortunate enough that, shortly after we were getting going, the sanitation company that bought us that said they were going to keep, everybody on, which I knew that wasn't going to happen, right? Yeah. That's just not what they do. When we sold it, we said, you could paint the trucks canary yellow for all I care. It's not mine. But I did want him to take care of the employees, but they very quickly started letting go of my right-hand people, one of them being my VP at the sanitation company. So immediately I brought him into my organization. Like, hey, brother, you can come here. We're going to figure this out together. And he's did really well. He still actually manages all of my stuff in the Metro Atlanta area, but he broke off, and now he's got his own brokerage and realtor and sells homes up there. So he does a great job. So shout out to Joe. He's doing it up there for me. Do you
find that when you have those guys like that VP come in, of really wanting the best for them too, right? Where it bleeds over, and you're like, man, you got to keep up this quality, but man, if you could sell some homes on the side or do this, or man, let me move you up so I can get you to a higher pay.
It's really important. So that was kind of the thing I talked to him about, was just come on with me. I'm not gonna feed your whole family forever, right? I need you to learn, and we worked out a deal that could make sense for him. But then he got his real estate license shortly after, and so he had his own section going and running my section. And so because I knew where we were growing and what he wanted to do. I needed to give him the ability to fly on his own. Yeah. And he did. Yeah.
What's wild, I see a lot of, they'll stifle their own talent.
Yeah. You can't do that. No, you can't do that. You've got to, the hard thing too with talent is figuring out where to place them, how to utilize them, and then allow them to grow. I mean, if somebody grows outside of anything I'm doing, God bless them. Yeah. Whatever I'm doing, I want you to do well. And it can hurt. Yeah. It doesn't always feel good, but I want people to do well.
Yeah. It's tough. I've had guys I've had some that I've just had to let go of. Not many, but most of the people that have left, especially the original software company, most people that have left, they've come to me and said, hey, I got this huge opportunity. I'm struggling with it. And they've brought it to me to say, hey, what do you think I should do? Should I stay here? I'm like, one guy went on to, he's one of the heads of Apple, Apple Siri, the Siri division.
Great.
And I'm like, dude, you got to take that offer. Yeah. That's an incredible experience. Now, I want you here. So if that doesn't work out, come on back.
Figure it out. Let's do it.
Come on back. Yeah. I'll bring you on. Yeah. I've even had one guy I'm working with a little bit now on a new software company is of letting him going, hey, you can stay here, but you've hit kind of a ceiling here. Yeah. And I think you need to go work for a huge software company to get that experience and keep growing.
Sure.
And then you can come back at any moment. Like there's no risk in it for you, so go try it.
It's super smart because if they do come back, you're getting an incredible person. But
and
then
trust.
And the other thing too is when it says to the new person, you're saying to the new person, I'm going to help you grow.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You have a track record to say I'm not going to pigeonhole you. You're not coming here to die.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you grow.
I think it's just the skill of putting yourself in that person's shoes.
Sure.
And you're going, hey, if I was him and I was working for me, yes, they got to get, they got to fulfill their job description or whatever. They have to provide value to the company. Yeah. Yes. But like if you feel like you're not really important to them or that, pretty soon you're not going to put forth your best work. You're not going to really feel a part of the team. You're not going to really be a part of making this company so much better.
Inequitable positions are really hard to overcome. In other words, when you're paying somebody too little, they feel that way, right? You don't give them opportunity, they feel that way. Same advice for when you're paying somebody a good amount and they're not living up to their potential. You have then as a manager or a boss or an owner, you're going like, this is inequitable.
Yeah.
And then when you're freelancing, it's the same way. When you have a client and you're working for them, if they're not providing you with the tools you need to do the job you want to do, then that can be untenable. So those relationships are always hard. The only thing that survives an untenable situation is communication.
Yeah.
And it's open communication. Say, what do you need? And these are the things I need.
Yeah.
It's the only way to get past that.
Yeah. And I think some things is not just more money.
No.
In fact, it's pretty wild. Like work environment and loving what they're doing and right person, right seat, right? You have them in the right seat. I've had guys in a position before that me changing them in a completely different position was what was needed.
Sure. And sometimes they just need time too. They just need somebody to hear them out. Yeah. A lot of times people need to be seen and heard, right? Yeah. And so sometimes it's just like, I have an idea and I don't feel like I can get it out.
Yeah.
You know, and so seen and heard is always a big one too. So you're right. It's not always money. Yeah. I do think that we look at it that way. It tends to be transactional in that way, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, sometimes I will. Sometimes I mean, that'll be my default a lot of times, just because I'm thinking of the big picture and things like that.
Listen, if you're an owner out there today, I just want to tell you that I probably have been in your shoes and done some of the things. I have so many regrets, the ways I'd like to, and sitting here today, I'm talking about all these altruistic ways of, handling people, but I've fumbled the ball so many times. And so like, I'll apologize to you right now. So, I mean, I don't, you try to get it right. And looking back, being 48 now, there's one thing that you can't replace is experience. You really can't. What I knew at 20 isn't what I knew at 30, isn't what I knew at 40, isn't what I know at 48, and won't be what I know at 58.
Yeah.
And so you just cannot replace time and experience. You just can't replace that.
And there are differences between different industries, and I love business, right? Like I love. Well, here's my order. I love people first. It trumps.
Always good.
It always trumps everything else. And then I do love tech and business and tech business. In a sense. Yeah. And so like, but I love other businesses too. But you'll learn as I've gone into other businesses, like, whoa, like there's a lot of differences between
learning curve going from like service industry and sanitation to go into real estate. If then, I've consulted in retail. And so there's a learning curve in that world of figuring it out.
And some industries, dude, are tough businesses. Tough models. There's some that are cash heavy, right? And so you're working on your 30-60 out or whatever, 30-60-90 out. And, you have to put in a lot of capital to get that baby going. There's other industries that it's like barely even about capital. It's more about quality of marketing. And, and usually like if you love business and or entrepreneurial, you'll end up learning so much about different businesses.
I agree.
And you'll learn a lot. A lot of what I've learned is, I try and disqualify things now. People pitch me business stuff every day.
For sure.
Like, hey, Dave, I got this idea. Or, usually within 10 seconds, I'm like, bad idea in my head.
Do you tell them?
Yeah, I do.
I do. I usually try to be upfront.
I do, but I don't try and just crush their dream. If it's something that they're so passionate, they've been, planning it for years and stuff. I'll say, hey, here's my caution. And I'll tell them exactly my thoughts. But I'm also go, hey, you know what? I can be wrong.
Sure.
And you can, prove me wrong if I am. Just don't waste all your money and don't get yourself in a bad position. But I do think when you learn more and more and more, you see, immediately what comes up in my head when anyone's telling me about a business opportunity or whatever is all the traps along the way.
Sure.
And like the difficulty of it.
Like you can see the red flags.
Yeah, it's not
what's happening.
Oh man, you just have this business and you're making all this money, and it's like, dude,
as a first-time entrepreneur, I can hear a lot of first-time entrepreneurs, and they get in that trap where it's like, this is going to print money. Yeah. How many times have you heard this is going to print money?
Yeah.
And I'm like, brother, you do not understand how much work and the lift it's going to take to get this thing up out of the ground. And I've had some businesses where I've worked inside of some venture capital and served on some boards that have had a tremendous amount of lift. I've served on some boards. I've got a friend of mine that he made watches for like the entire Vuitton group, and Fendi, and he knew the Gucci guys and Aldo, and he remembers the stories of him being murdered by his wife and all of these things, and he's got this incredible stories. He was big businesses. In fact, if you're wearing a watch that was made before 2000 out of that Vuitton group, he made it. It's just he made it across the world. And so I've worked alongside some really interesting guys, but the concept of business and the principles of business never change.
Correct.
And they're all heavy heavy lifting.
Yes.
And those guys with season in them know.
Yeah.
But it is funny. The first time entrepreneurs come in, I sat with a guy, years back, we had a plane and it helped me get around to people and deal with stuff and get back home quick, you know, and that was always a big thing. I want to be able to come home quick.
Yeah.
And so a guy jumped on, he said, I really want to pitch this idea. I said, I've got literally 2 hours and you can fly here and I'll let them deadhead you back or whatever, you know? And he pitched me an idea and it was like, what was it? It was a sunscreen. It was like a daily sunscreen use, kind of like the Dollar Shave Club. And I wanted to tell him, like, Mr. Wonderful, like, take this behind the barn and shoot it, you know? But what I told him was, like, just prove the concept.
Yeah.
If you want, start small and go to the farmer's market and sell the idea to people and get over it. And, you know, and I think he tried it and realized pretty quick, because you've got to prove this. Start small. See if somebody wants it. Yeah. And then, you know, that doesn't have to be the end of your story. That can just be into that story.
Correct. Or it could be a pivot.
Or pivot.
Yeah, I tell guys all the time, I'm like, get as quick to testing as possible. Yeah. Right? Get as quick to testing as possible. On the wall out there, on my whiteboard wall, it's think big, start small, scale fast.
Right.
Think the big picture, right? Think through the big picture. Start it small. Right. You know, the least amount of exposure for you to expose all the issues that are going to come up. That's right. Because even the last two businesses I've had, like I knew it coming in. I was like, okay, there's going to be a bunch of unknowns that I think, but what are the things that I do know? And I had an Amazon business, the FBA that scaled out. I'm like, hey, hired 2 guys, full training, the best training out there for it. Incredible guy. Like, it wasn't bad hires, nothing. It ended up, you know, the first things that came out were stuff that were on Amazon side that, you know, we were so small that Amazon didn't give a rip.
Yeah, right.
And so that, I mean, literally cost me over $100,000 in the beginning, you know?
Sure.
And so you just don't know those things. So as quickly as you can get to testing so that you can see all the things that you don't know or that you assume are going to be the case, that the market says it's not the case.
That's exactly right. Well, and that's hard too for somebody to understand, because we were talking even before this started and about podcasting and things of that nature, and we were just saying how sometimes the newbies into this podcast world have these great ideas of how they want to do things, and ultimately, whether it's podcasting, it's garbage, or it's, you know, t-shirt sales, right? Yeah. You got to find your audience. Yeah. It doesn't matter how great of the idea you have. It's what does your audience want? Correct. And that's and I don't care what business it is. You've got to understand your audience. Yeah. The ones that win understand their audience.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
Yeah.
If you can test to flesh that stuff out and get data in.
Oh, data. Everything's run by numbers. People used to ask me all the time in garbage. My kids gets frustrated because I'll go back to these old garbage stories. And I was telling in fact, I was just having this conversation, I think, with my daughter in Atlanta the other day. And I was telling her how we hired a guy in our maintenance department. He wanted to work in maintenance and work his way up. And we had, you know, certified mechanics and all of this stuff. But this guy was starting off, you know, really full time, but he would come in late. Mm-hmm. And he would work on a truck for maybe 2 or 3 hours. But his sole job for me was doing tire pressure. That's all he did. Mm-hmm. So when trucks came in, he gave them an hour to cool down. He did tire pressure on every tire, because I realized that tire pressure meant something. It meant that I got slightly better gas mileage, but I mean, it really meant that I had less blowouts. Less blowouts kept me that casing, allowed that casing to be retreaded. It you know, just so much went into that. And tire maintenance was something like 15-16% of my budget. Yeah. So if I could save, you know, a quarter point, half point, or a point, that's right to the bottom line. Yeah. You know, and so that guy paid for himself. Yeah. You know, so
for sure.
So everything was based off data. Yeah. I was tracking every tire, every casing, every, you know, it was all that way so that I could analyze it and say, did that pay off? Yeah. Did that matter? And that lesson really came from my father-in-law. I mean, I can remember the first time I was, you know, working for him, and I knew we needed to hire somebody on our phones. Yeah. Our phones were ringing off. You wouldn't think anybody calls their garbage service, right? Believe it or not, they call all the time. And so our people would answer about 120 calls a day.
Wow.
Yeah, so we would sign up, in the heyday, we'd sign up anywhere from 90 to as many as 140 signups a day. So that was really big, but we had to go all, you know, an automated system where press 1 for that eventually. I hated it because we were family owned and I wanted to keep that feel. But as we grew, we had to go to those things, right? And I can remember our phones just ringing off the hook. And I called my father-in-law up, and he was still pretty involved, hadn't quite let go of the reins. And I said, Dave, man, we've got to hire another person. And he said, his first question to me, why? Why do you have to hire another person? I said, because our phones are ringing off the hook. He said, but why? I said, because people are calling in nonstop. But why do you need to hire another person? Because I just said, Dave, are you not hearing what I just said? And we went around for a while, and he said, well, you're not ready. And he hung up. So I called him a couple of days later. I said, Dave, we've got to hire another person. We went through this for about a week or so, to where I finally said, he's not getting why we need to hire another person. Really, I wasn't getting why we need to hire another person. So finally, after about a week or so of this, my next call, I said, David, if we hire another person, I'm missing roughly about 200 calls a day. If I can hire another person, that'll be about 40 signups for that person per day. Those 40 signups, they're going to stay with us for about $225 on average before they switch to somebody, maybe forever. But 225 times, I counted it out, and it was like, we're going to pay them about, at the time, I think $50,000-$60,000 a year, whatever it was, to answer the phones. Yeah. And so I worked it out in the math. Yeah. And at the end of that conversation, she said, Jason, you don't need one, you need two. He said, you finally got it. Yeah. You finally got it.
So, it has to, that's another thing. It has to make sense, right? It has to make financial sense.
Right. Right. Well, and I wasn't explaining that. Everything had to be data driven. We didn't make, he used to say the devil's in the detail, right? The devils are in the detail. Numbers don't lie. Yeah. That was another one he loved to say. And so that was really my training ground. Everything I learned in econ at the University of Georgia, and great school, go Dogs. But I learned so much more in being with him and listening to him, although I used to call him Little Hitler, and he was tough, man, and he would, just brutalize you and just very direct. When I first started with him, I remember I'd come home, we were building, a house, and when I say building a house, it was, like a Tim Jones or, John Whelan's starter home, where you go and you pick the Formica and in the 5 shades of white, and you just pick the house out. And so I think we paid $142,000 for that first home at a 7.25% interest rate. Oh wow! And so I had good credit, so I felt proud of 7.25%. Yeah. But it was a great starter home. But while they were finishing that, I lived with him, so he would chew me out on the phone for a couple hours at the end of the day. And then I would show up at his house to eat dinner, and he'd be like, hey, Jay Bird, you want a drink? And I was thinking, man, I don't even want to talk to you, Yeah. And finally pulled me aside. He said, dude, that's just business. I love you. Let's get all that crap out of the way. I love you. I care about you. I want the best for you. Now, can we get on to what needs to be getting on to? Can we get on to what you need to think about? And it taught me so many great lessons that I learned from him. For sure.
Hey, what's up, guys? So when I'm not doing the podcast, I'm doing a lot of traveling. I put on training all over the country for LE and civilians. I also travel a lot for my nonprofit, the Pipe Hitter Foundation. And as you guys know, travel, going back and forth, can wear you down. But this past year, I have found the antidote. So let me put you on to Aquavita, Destin's premier IV therapy and oxygen bar. This place is owned and operated by a board-certified ER physician with over 23 years of experience, so you know your health is in good hands. Every IV drip is mixed to Board of Pharmacy standards and backed by CDC-level infection control. Whether you're dealing with a fatigue, a hangover, jet lag, stress, immunity issues, or even PMS, they've got custom vitamin drips and boosters tailored just for that. When you go inside, the place is pretty awesome. It puts you at ease right when you go in there. They have comfy lounge chairs, which are perfect for singles or couples, full group sessions. And you can even book the whole space for bachelor or bachelorette parties, race day recovery, or wellness events. While you're in there, they go the extra mile too. They'll give you blankets, sleep masks, earplugs, aromatherapy oxygen, all complimentary. And the best part, every visit includes direct care from the physician and experienced RNs, all focused on fast, safe, and affordable wellness. So if you're in the Destin area, hit up Aquavita. Your body will definitely thank you.
Yeah. So that was, what was it like going from being, for the most part, probably broke previous to that, like going through school, paying for your school.
Yeah.
And then you hustle. It always is 2-3 times more than you ever thought it would be. And then you get that breakthrough, you sell, you get
I get
wow,
a piece of the company. I've got some cash on hand. I'm able to start making some decisions.
More cash than you probably ever had.
100%. Multi-millionaire in early 30s, and I felt like, oh man, I felt king.
Yeah.
King of the world.
Yeah.
And it's
Which
really
is great.
easy to
Hey,
get in the
I
trap.
think that should be celebrated.
Well, it should be celebrated.
Work and you put the risk and you've
It's
hustled.
Entrepreneur 101, right? 100%. 100%. And my wife are signing off on personal debt and things at the end. So yeah, you're putting the risk out. You should get the reward, and you should be all in on it. And I'm a big believer in that. But I'm also a big believer in humble pie. And when you're 30 and you get it, you've got to be really careful. I'm very, very fortunate that I had a wife that had grown up in the family and seen her parents struggling, and still was young enough, but old enough at that age to see it and feel it and know what it wasn't to get Christmas presents when Christmas would come around, and know that they were reinvesting everything they had into this sanitation company, knowing it in fourth grade where she was stamping this was, they dot matrix bills, and she would stamp the amounts, to send the bills out, and all of these things, and working inside of that kind of look at you and go, hey, you ain't all that in a bag of chips, Jason. And so, there was a point in my time in that journey as I was setting up the real estate that I tell people Jesus broke my golf game. So I was, I got to the point where I was playing 4 or 5 days a week. I got my handicap down, and feeling really good about yourselves and socializing with everybody under the sun and all of those things. And just got humbled to a degree that I felt like I needed to work inside the church a little bit more. My wife and I really took off some time to seek some counseling and go through that. I mean, at that 10-year point, I wasn't the husband I wanted to be, the husband that God wanted to be, the father that I felt like I was still there, but not always there. And so we were inside a church on the south side of Atlanta, and I started, working inside. I had already, because of the business side, kind of been as an elder and then chaired the board and all of these things. But I had all this chaos in my life, even though I was, again, all the traps that come with having some money were all there for me, like they are for everybody. And I can remember saying, we need some counseling, and I kind of Googled where to get counseling, and I found a group that was the furthest away from town that we felt like we could go because nobody would know us. Because, church isn't always the safest place to go to counseling for. It's not always the safest spot. And so we went to that side, and they just really... large part saved our marriage. We went to intensive. My wife had her own counselor. I had mine. We came back together and did counseling. Big believer in it. And, really learned what intimacy was, what true intimacy was in a marriage. I can remember we walked in this counselor's room, and he had it like crocheted on the wall. I mean, it looked like he got the love seat from a flea market, and the crochet was like my grandmother's stitched crochet up on the wall. And it said the word intimacy. It said, when I give the other person the tool, everything about me, in other words, the tools to use for my destruction, but instead of using them to destroy me, they use them to defend me. That was intimacy. And I thought that was powerful. That's where I wanted to be. I wanted to get to that, where my wife knew everything about me, all of my secrets, all the dark spaces, all the spaces from my past that maybe she didn't even know. But even before we met, at 16 or 15 and 17, there, all of those things, and say, hey, here, this is who I am, and I want to get better, and I'm going to trust you with everything. And that took some time. And so we went through that. Also,
like a year?
Probably a full year of that, and some different counseling. We phased into different stuff and small group studies and just really intensives, just trying to say, this is all about us. We get a sitter, and we go and do it, and then we come back, and we talk about it, homework, and all of these things to just say, there was a pastor, I can't remember his name, but he said, that the first 10 years of your marriage, you're trying to get rid of all of your selfishness. The next 10 years of your marriage, you've started to learn that, it's not about you, it's about the other person, and how do I live with that other person, and think more about them than yourself. And then after that, when you go into your next 10 years of marriage, you're really then in a beautiful rhythm. Well, we had kind of lived our 10 years, I think, for me, truthfully, selfishly. I mean, it makes sense because you grow up, it's all about you, right? Before your wife comes into your life, it's always been about you. And so at that 10-year mark, we wanted to change things up, which was good because that same pastor said the problem with our country is that we keep reliving the first 10 years. Like you break up and you start again, you break up and you start again. You live the worst parts of the marriage. And so in fact, this coming month in September, will be 31 years together.
Come on.
This February will be 25 years of marriage. This February. So we're starting to get in that rhythm, and which is a great time since I'm almost empty nested, Awesome. So it's a great time to be in that. But we really focused on that. Then along with that, I did a lot of seminary work and seminary studies and theological studies, some pastoral counseling. And that church, I started working with them to help plant churches. So I kind of shifted and gave a lot of my business duties over to my VP and even my wife doing a lot of that. And I started really working inside churches to where eventually we were planting churches in a place called Little Five Points in downtown Atlanta. Very eclectic part of Atlanta, and everything goes, everybody goes. We walked into a theater right beside Variety Playhouse. If anyone knows, downtown Atlanta is 7 Stages Theater, is run by the LGBTQ community. Okay. We walked in, they had a coffee shop connected to it, and in bubble letters on the windows of the coffee shop were the words adultery. And I thought, this is exactly where Jesus wants us to be. And so I walked with that guy as he met us and walked us around. He said, hey, I've got problems. I don't want to offend you with some of the plays we do. In fact, we had plays that would say in the marquee, in the lighting marquee out front, it would say wieners and boobs. And then underneath, it would have our sign on Sundays that say Refuge City Church, So we'd have all these things. So I said, look, we're outside the box.
Did people think that was advertisement for your church?
I don't know. Honestly, I probably should ask the question. I've got some pictures. I might, if I find one, I'll send it to you and you can throw it up or whatever. But
pretty smart marketing.
It was very interesting how we did that. We only hung our sign on Sundays. They wouldn't let us hang it the rest of the week, But at the end, as he walked me around, which I thought was interesting, he didn't want to offend me. As he walked us around, he said at the very end, he said, I have one more issue with you guys being here. And I said, what's that? He says, and I hate churches. And I said, no, I get it. I do too. In a lot of degrees, I understand what you're going through, and I don't want to be a soapbox. We really want to tell you this message that Jesus loves you, right? And that God judges, the Holy Spirit convicts, we love. And that's really where I wanted to be. And so we started planting small groups there and then developed into a church there. And shortly there, after having a few services, the pastor that was supposed to be planted there was pulled and back to the main campus. And my wife and I just felt like we could not leave the community. And so I default pastored for about 3 years, a church in downtown Atlanta. And loved it. We used to say we weren't your mama's church unless your mama went to our church. And so very outside the box, just wanted to have a passion for people that feel like they're the furthest away from God. I usually am like, man, you're one step away. C.S. Lewis says if there's 100 steps from God or 99 steps from God, that you just have to take one. Yeah, that's all it takes is just the one. And so I love to have those conversations. I mean, even in our podcast today, I always tell people that my hope is that if you're a believer, I'll stretch your idea of grace. And if you're not a believer, I hope you'll begin maybe doubting your own belief. Yeah. And let's see where the story goes.
Yeah, that's why I love, I think it's, in a big way, I think it's harder for people that think they have it all together. Like, those are the ones that I'm like, man, I feel like you're further away.
It's the arrogancy of the guy Christian faith, for sure.
Yeah, like I work with a lot of addicts and alcoholics.
Yeah, they're my favorite people.
That's
most honest people.
Yeah,
for the most part.
One way or the other, depending on if they're sober.
Honest. They're gonna get honest.
But like, I mean, that was my story. And so, like with addicts and alcoholics, the worse off they are in some ways, I think it's better because they know without a shadow of a doubt that they're an addict, alcoholic, and have to depend on some sort of relationship with God.
Yeah.
I
worked a lot in the addiction world. We used to do a concert on Christmas, and we used to call it the night, Rock the Cradle, the night hope arrived. And I would have musicians. So I grew up, my hometown was Collective Soul, was born out of my hometown. Okay. And so I'm still friends. The bass player is a good friend of mine. They're coming here. Actually, they're playing here at the festival down over at Seascape this October, I'll have to get you over to the house. They're going to come to the house. We're going to do a grill out and all that, and we'll get backstage and all that. I'll have to connect you with some of those guys. But great guys, really incredible. They're 30-something years. I think they're still doing it, you know. I mean, but my friend, the bass player, Will Turpin, who is really still a good friend of mine, been on the podcast a couple of times, and it's a lot of fun to have him around. But those guys would help me do, and they bring other artists. And, man, we would, couple shows a night we would do for the thing. And one of these shows, I always had a lot of kind of homelessness, addiction world, and that crosses each other a lot. And I can remember one time we were setting up for this concert one year, and I have just so much to do, you know, just running around with chicken your head cut off, and I mean, putting up lights and sound equipment and all this stuff. And in comes this guy, Sam. Sam was a homeless guy that had come into our church several times before, and about every other time he'd come in, he'd heckle me from the theater seats, you know, like, that's not right. John doesn't say that, you know, while you're speaking, which is always a hard one. So he would heckle me, and we'd have some people. In fact, when he'd come in, I'd kind of have some of the other guys that, you know, I could trust to kind of like, hey, can you sit with Sam today and get him to calm down? Because I don't mind having those conversations, but that can be disruptive in a corporate setting, you know? And so at any rate, Sam walks in, you know, and wanted to talk to me while we're setting up. And he is wet. He's pissed himself. He's drunk. He's high. I can see it in his eyes. And I'm just, honestly, I'm at a place I cannot deal with you. I cannot deal with you. I did not have the right attitude. I did not want to deal with Sam at all. And this beautiful lady that served at our church, and she was just incredible heart, walks up to him and gives him a hug. It's like, let me get you a cup of coffee. And so she sits with Sam, just sits with him, talks with him, listens to him. She's not preaching at him. She's not telling him he was wrong. She's not judging him. She's just loving on him. And after about an hour or so, she comes running to me and she says, Pastor Jason, they want to get, you know, Sam wants to change his life around. He wants to go into a rehab. And I said, you sure? He goes, I'm so sure. He gave me his dime bag of weed. She goes, what do I do with it? And I said, well, you smoke it. No, I said, I said, just throw it away, you know? And she goes, but my fingerprints are on it. I looked at her, I said, there ain't nobody looking for this trash weed fingerprints. Just throw it away, you know? And so that was kind of funny. But Sam, that night, I called a buddy of mine who had a men's home, and we got him into detox in the hospital. And so my after party was at the hospital detoxing with Sam, and then getting him into a recovery center. And Sam got into there, rehabbed his life, actually became one of the, what do you call it, like house parents or whatever it is at this men's home. And I do Bible studies with him on a weekly basis, and we go by, and Sam just did an incredible job just turning his life. I mean, you know, shaved his hair, trimmed his beard, started restoring relationships with his kids, and over time, some couldn't be restored. Some had, and that is consequences of actions. And if you've worked with addicts, you know, some can't be restored, but some can. And so all he could do is keep his side of the street clean and do those things, right? And one step in front of the other. And we did we did a concert, I think it was a year or two later, we did the concert, and we had Sam and some of the other guys come up and kind of, if you ever seen the cardboard testimony thing. And so he had a testimony, and just the crowd went wild to know that he was one of the attendees at a concert years ago, and now here he was.
That's pretty cool.
Sam fell back, though, into addiction. And I found him again. I had somebody called me and said, hey, he's been kicked out of the house, and he's on the street. Can you find him? And I went and found him, got him into another home. He got kicked out of that home, got him in another spot, got kicked out of that, stopped hearing from him. And years later, Sam was passed away, OD. I don't know why it's not fair on this side of heaven. You know, I don't know why I mean, I know fairness went out the window with Adam and Eve. I don't know why we can't defeat it, but one thing I know is Sam is healed. Sam knew Jesus. Sam loved Jesus. He struggled with things. He struggled with an addiction and a disease that just ultimately got him. But he's healed now. And it's a battle, and I know it's a battle. I know it's tough, and not everybody wins it. And it's a daily battle for people in addiction, and I know that. My heart sees that, and I have a heart for that too. And I don't know it all the way like other people know it for sure, but experiencing that was painful, seeing that happen, and that was tough to get that call. But I've had others. I've had others that have lost their lives to addiction.
Sure.
It's not easy. So, yeah.
Yeah. I have... Thanks for sharing that story.
No,
I love
man,
that story.
I'm not normally like this.
Yeah, it's all right. I love it. I've had guys that have in and out, jail, years and years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
And then, man, it clicks and they're sober. And one thing I do know, though, I mean, you can be saved and still be in active addiction.
100%.
And, you know, now what that looks like long term, I'm not sure. There's a lot of questions around that, but I've seen guys that, I mean, I've had guys. I shared one on the last podcast. A guy came up to me one night and said, "Hey, I want to know Jesus." And I said, "Like, you want to know him now, or you want to know about him?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Right now."
Right now.
I'm like, "Come on in.
Let's do it."
Yeah, I gave the worst presentation of the gospel, I think,
I'm
ever.
sure it's great.
Right? I felt like I needed to.
Sure.
Like, I was like, so in Genesis, you know?
Right.
It was just, I mean, butchered it. And then he looked at me and said, you know, so what you're saying is, you know, he took my place. I was like,
that's right.
I don't know how you got that out of what I just said, but yes.
That's awesome. So cool.
The dude came to know the Lord that night. 4 months later, like, who knows, back in prison, you know, relapses, and he was a meth cook. And, but I started getting these letters from prison where, I mean, just full of scripture.
Sure.
And the dude is just soaking up the word. And, you know, I think he probably went to prison three more times after that, right?
Sure.
Now he is 4 years, just got 4 years sober, leading a prison ministry, kicking butt, married, kids, like, incredible. But then I also have the stories of the guy, you know, one of my best friends I got sober with. I mean, I think it was at like 12 years. I've been sober 24. So it was probably 12 years ago. So 12 years sober, both of us, and him and his wife. He finds out that his wife had been cheating on him, and I mean, it just destroyed him.
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, stay strong on program.
Stay, come to meetings, do the things, do the
foundation,
steps, work it. Yeah.
And you can't afford, you're going to have to be 10-stepping all the time, because you can't afford to hold on to those resentments. You'll relapse, dude. You'll straight. And sure enough,
he did.
Yeah. And so, and there's been a bunch of that. I've been to so many funerals of like 20-something-year-olds, right? Especially with heroin.
Yeah.
But like you, I mean, it's their journey, and you don't know. There's guys that I've said, man, I don't want to sponsor you. You're not serious. Like, this isn't really going to work for you. And yet those dudes are, I mean, one of them was just here. He's a missionary in Hungary now with
awesome. 5
kids. And, you know, and that was 15 years ago. I mean, he's been sober, kicking butt. Yeah. But then there's, you know, other ones that have off themselves. It's their journey, but, man, and honestly, you just get to play a part in it.
100%. Yeah. Well, and the biggest part is, I mean, they have to do the work, right? I mean,
yeah.
They have to ones to be there. Like I said, the God judges, the Holy Spirit convicts, we love. Yeah. So I have no authority to say who's in or out.
Yeah.
I find myself to be much more liberal in my faith than most people are. I'm unapologetic for it. I just feel like if I get to heaven and Jesus looks at me and says, man, you got grace so wrong. You gave it away so freely. You loved so good. Yeah. You mistook it. I didn't mean you were supposed to love that great and you were supposed to give grace that freely. If that's what's said to me, I'm okay with it. You know, I'm okay with it. And I don't think that, by the way, I don't think that's what's going to happen either. So I think that's our job, right? Is that's what we're doing, and I'm of no authority to say who's in or who's out. And so, but I tend to think that when you put your faith and trust in Jesus, He holds on to you.
Yeah.
You know, and He never lets you go.
What's really interesting about your story is you transitioning from, you know, entrepreneurship, which is really tough. It's really gritty, hard
dog
work.
Eat dog world.
Yeah. And it's this business mindset, and it's logical, and it's to then you make it, and where you go, hey, I have every right to retire myself, just spend my life on me.
Right.
And you go, no, this next phase is investing, and not just investing money, but investing in my family, investing in the kingdom, investing in others, giving back. Right. Which sometimes means money.
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of times it means more than just money.
Times, tithes, and talents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I have an incredible wife. I mean, without her, I feel like I'd be in a ditch somewhere, you know, down by the river in a van, you know. I mean, but she, again, holds me accountable to a lot of things. And when I say accountable, I want to preface that by saying she holds me accountable in a lot of things. However, she can't hold me accountable in certain things, right? Because she's my wife. So I have certain men in my life that have to hold me accountable for being a better husband and you know, not veering off into all the things that us guys can get involved in, right? Sure. And that's not fair to her to put on that all the time, because then she's a babysitter, and I don't need a babysitter, right? And so I do have, but she does challenge me, and she does hold me accountable in a lot of stuff, and she wants me to do better. And I think through that was huge influence in my life. My mother is a praying mother. I come from a broken home. My mother's prayed for me every day. She's always put Jesus first in her life, and I know Scripture because of her. I know Scripture because of her parents. My grandparents used to pick me up every Friday night when they were alive, and they'd take us to eat, my brother and I, and then take us to KB Toy Store to pick out, you know, a $1 toy. We'd come back, and we'd have to learn Bible verses at their home, and we'd have to learn these things. And so they placed these things, and Scripture tells us, you know, train a child up in the way that they should go, and then they will not leave far from it, right? And so it's like there were things placed in my life very early on. Some of it, though, I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and I said the salvation prayer, you know, every day for the first, you know, 30-something years of my life, you know, until I finally understood grace. So there were negative things too, but that Scripture guided me. And so at those transitional points in my life, anytime that I've ever felt overwhelmed, I'm always falling back on Jesus.
Like your anchor.
That's always my anchor. That's always my anchor. And I'm so thankful that I had people in my life that poured into me. I mean, I had youth pastors in my life that poured into me. I've had, you know, other mentors in my life, faith-based, that poured into me. And those people really like anchored me into, when you go in, when you step out. I heard this the other day. There's, I think it's St. Mary Frances. Runs a orphanage out in Sudan, and she was in an interview somewhere, and they said, "How do you like find God? Like, how do you find Him?" She says, "I just step into the unknown, and the unknown is where God is." And so I love that, because I do think when I find myself in that unknown, when I find myself not knowing or feeling like I've done everything I can, that's where I go. It's always Jesus. It's always Jesus.
It's always Jesus.
Yeah. So I did that church, and I had a great time doing the church. But then as all things come to an end, you know, my venture capital, I had things taken off. We never stopped the business. I was a reverse tither when I was there, right? So I didn't take any salary. I just did it. Again, I was a default pastor. I mean, what do you want from me? You know, just trying to love on people in Jesus' name. And I had a great artist who was a recovering addict. He was, at the time, I think he was like 10 years sober. He had a record deal, and he was recorded at Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Okay. And really, they were taking off. His Fly was his group, and I mean, there's songs hitting the radio and doing stuff. And he was on the Tales of Collective Soul and knew all those guys. And he was taking off, but he had such a raging drug habit that he got kicked out of a rock and roll band, you know. Yeah. And found himself at his story was he found himself kicked out of a drug dealer's house finally. You know, he's couch surfing, essentially homeless, kicked out of a drug dealer's house, and he was like, "God, whoever you are, whatever you are, I surrender. And fast forward, and I helped him. I worked with him writing songs in Nashville and recording some stuff. And all that was great because then he went on the road while he was my worship pastor. He started going on the road doing festivals and touring with other artists and giving out his testimony and his story. And he does a lot of that even still today. But that left me with no worship. And so one of my last Sundays, we had a harmonica that came and played Amazing Grace. And I thought, I'm not sure if this is going to be sustainable model. And so I walked with people into other churches in Atlanta and helped them find places. Again, our business, there were business things that I needed to focus on. Our kids were getting into that middle school and support staff when you're doing a small church. It's not all, you don't really have, you're the support staff, you know, your family's the support staff. And so, and then my in-laws, tragically through that process, they passed away. Now, my father-in-law was 57, had a blood clot go to his lung 3 days before Christmas. Wow. It's terrible. It was a tragic time. It's a mentor in certainly my life, but my wife's life and her brother's life. And then 6 months later, her mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So we had her move in with us, and we walked that road with her. And so that was just...
It's a lot.
It was a lot. And so all of that being said, we, after their passing, we ended up, inheriting, their estate and all those things. And so the house in Sandestin here in Burnt Pine became ours.
Was that 9 years ago, or was that?
So my father was 2012. My mother was like 20. I think it's 2014. Okay. Right around there. So it felt like So it was shortly after her passing. I mean, we started. Next thing you know, we had this house in Burnt Pine. It was, fairly good sized home. You can't rent. Sure. Can't rent in there. Yeah. Then you had a house in Atlanta that also, we built and felt like it was a great spot and loved it, and couldn't rent that either. We're homeschooling our children and going, 2 or 3 months in Florida, 2 or 3 months in Atlanta, and every time I go to Florida, I'd have a honey-do list of things to fix because you don't live in a house, things break, and then I come back to Atlanta, same things would happen. And so my wife and I set our kids down and we said, where do y'all want to be? You need community too. You need to find a place that you can find friends, you can find community, we can find community, and we're not going to do it going back and forth. And the kids loved Gammy and Poppy's house, and we couldn't, and they loved the beach. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great area. So we came down here and sold the house in Atlanta and began moving down here, but really focused on my family and then different business ventures for quite some time. And when I was doing church, I've had the opportunity to, again, mentor different people. And I went to summer camp while I was doing church. And I was kind of the outside pastor, the outside the wall kind of guy. And they'd say, hey, we're going to put you in this room full of jocks. And, and they're the black kids in the area. And there are no other black. I mean, I feel like I had all the black kids, like 6 of them. And the rest of the church was predominantly, white church. And so I had these kids, and I said that week, I said, you know what, I'm just going to do life with these guys. I'm not going to, whenever they have breaks, I'm not going to go and hang out with the other counselors and do all this stuff. I'm going to hang out with them. We're going to do the slingshot together. We're going to do the horror houses together. We're going to go get T-shirts, airbrush together. I'm going to get in the ocean with them. Whatever it is, I'm doing life with them for these days. And I got to see life from a different angle then. I got to see life through their eyes. I remember walking into an airbrush shirt shop and the lady watching us at every turn, and I looked over and I said, this lady is like eye hawking me. I mean, she is like really watching. She goes, hey, look, Jay, she's going to do that. That's you with us more. You're going to get people going to follow. They're not following you. They're following us. And so I saw this world that I hadn't seen from my privileged standpoint to theirs. Yeah. And because of that, I just leaned into the relationship. So I just started mentoring them continually through high school. They'd call me up with questions, they'd hit me up, and then they get into college and I get questions, and then into adulthood I get questions, like how should I dress, how should I ask, and sometimes I couldn't answer that question because I'm a white guy in business and they were going in as a black guy, so I'd put them in with different people they could talk to and try to get help, and so I really stayed in touch with them. And love that mentorship. In fact, now, I mean, one of them's in like the CIA, and the other one's like doing, it's Chick-fil-A corporate. I've got another one that works at Delta. I've got another guy that's got his own business and service. So they've all turned out to be just incredible. Another one's a photographer and out in the West and doing great things. And they're great people. I've married one. I'm marrying another one here pretty soon. One of them's had a kid. So these guys came to me and said, when are you going to do something again? Like, when are you going to share your knowledge again with other people, or share your point of view or Jesus's point of view? When are you going to start speaking again? And that's where the idea of kind of that and my kids, and seeing them come up is like, what can I share with this next generation? That's where the podcast kind of came from. And I thought, nobody had listened to it, and then people come around.
Yeah. Start putting it out there.
Yeah, you start putting it out there.
When you first started the podcast, what were a lot of people start podcasts now over the last 5 years or so, especially nowadays. Someone else is starting a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I think what the difference between you and me too is like, when I decided to, I took months to decide to do it.
Oh yeah, no.
Then I said, okay, we're going to test one.
Yep.
I had GoPro cameras in here.
Oh, come on. Yeah, yeah.
We did one, and about 45 minutes into it, I said, I was like, let's wrap this up, because I'm buying professional this is a go. Yeah. And also, a part of it for me has been selfish, in the sense, I find people fascinating.
Hearing the stories, getting
people
through it.
Fascinate me. That's why I want
being
the
a storyteller.
stories. I don't want to sit around and talk about politics.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, most of that I don't even necessarily have an opinion on anyway, because I don't know the right answers. But
that's honest.
Yeah,
by the way, that's honest.
I don't. But I think people and where they came from, how they got to a perspective that I've never even thought about.
Yeah.
Just their background and experiences is
huge.
I would have done it for free, just like you probably. It's
like
I've
for
done
sure.
it at an expense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite to the point of paying me back, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money when you put a studio together, and I know that. And you have a studio, and I kind of built out a studio as well. And I started with an iPhone and some vlog cameras, so I was the same way. And after I did the first one, I laid in bed obsessing about what was said, and was I going to offend anybody? Was I going to, and all of these things. And I thought, I'm never releasing this podcast, and then I did, and. Like I said, I call it What the Hell Do I Know? Because my kids, when they were younger, I'd give them all of this entrepreneurial experience, this faith-based experience, and they'd kind of look at you and be like, whatever, Dad, whatever, and that teenage angst. And I say, look, don't do it. I mean, what the hell do I know? And so that's kind of where it came from. But awesome. I know that feeling of just that storytelling, everybody has a story and everybody has a testimony. And Revelation says that we're saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so getting that testimony out, telling that story is hugely important. Yeah. And I think today the media, this is what we have. I mean, the future is heading towards podcasting. Yeah. I mean, the future is heading, and I think it's heading away from audio podcasts onto video podcast. If you're not doing a video podcast today, I think you're left behind.
Yeah, you're missing out on like reels and stuff like that. Well, and I think
viewership, YouTube is increasing in their viewership for podcasting, heads and tails every month. If you
think about it, like this is one of the things, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it too. When I decided to do it, and I started figuring out how to do this, and then my buddy Eddie was like, man, let's do it together. I want to do it with you. And then, but when we started it, the main things, it checked off all these things on my boxes. I'm like, hey, I'm like, freedom of time is really the biggest flex in my mind. Yeah.
Well, it's your biggest commodity,
hey,
for sure.
How many millions do you have? How many millions do I have? Like, who gives a rip?
Right.
Like, what do you drive? What are you wearing?
Right.
Like, but having the freedom of your time and to do things that benefit other people and get outside yourself, so to speak, is, I mean, to me, those are high priority values. And so I have certain things when I look at business ventures, like I know I'll have to put in a massive amount of effort up front, but can I automate my time and myself out of it?
That's a good way.
That's just like number one.
You're doing a better job of that than I am, for sure, because I still do a lot. I'm in there producing, and then I also do all the editing. So
we'll start sharing resources.
Yeah, that'd be great.
and then I think of, okay, can I automate myself out of it, and then also it has to be some sort of platform. I build platforms.
Oh yeah.
So like
that's
my software
huge.
businesses, everything.
Yeah.
It's a platform that works outside of my time.
That's great.
You know, for podcasts though, I wasn't thinking, hey, will this work outside my time to make me X amount of money?
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking, hey, will this be something that is ministering to people outside their time?
Sure.
And it's something that both me and Eddie, if you notice on our podcast, we try not to make it about us, and we let those people tell their stories, and we let them share. We probably should be better, honestly, about saying more about us at times, but like, you know, so every week someone that's watching, they're hearing someone else's story.
That's right.
And then letting that go out there and letting God do with it whatever he wants, which we've already had some cool stories that I know about, especially with Eddie. I mean, I think it's been really impactful for young men, which I think is really cool. But, I hear a lot from different people of, oh man, I don't have that good of a story, or I don't have, you know, what the
it's
hell.
Not helter skelter, you know, whatever. Yeah.
I don't like, you know, I didn't have a national trial in front of the world. Or,
Right.
It's like, okay, of course I'm not, we had one guy who's like, I'm not, you know, you, Eddie, or David Goggins, or what. It's like, no, but they're not you either.
Yeah.
You know, and you have your own, and I think that some of the best stories are, you know, if you think of most people's experience, you know, they don't have necessarily some crazy worldwide thing that's happened to them, but they have everyday struggles that's just as much of a struggle, everyday tons of past trauma that even though they think, oh, my trauma's not as bad as getting shot at or whatever.
Everybody's got something.
Yes.
Everybody's got something. We're all going through something. There's 3 stages of life. You're either in a problem, coming out of a problem, or going into a problem.
Yeah. Or you are the problem.
or you might be the problem.
I think of that's some of the most helpful stuff, you know.
100%. Getting out the story.
Normal people.
Well, I think actually it helps. I mean, if people are watching it and seeing, hey, they're just like me. They're just another, we call ourselves the jabronis. So I have a couple other co-hosts that will sit down with me, and we bring on a guest too. And in the beginning, I think I probably was talking even too much myself. In fact, I got a feedback from an audience member that was like, we're kind of tired of hearing JB talk too much. And I was like, that's good. No, at first it did. No. But I was like, oh, they're kind of right. You know, I got the gift of gab. I mean, you know, podcaster, you know. But it's true. I want to strip back and allow them to hear the audience. So I hope, you know, every time I'm getting 1% better. That's like my goal. It's like 1% better. If I can do that through a whole year, that's 100% better, you know? 100%. So if I could get 1% better every time, you know, better today than I was yesterday, and even still better tomorrow. Yeah. And that's kind of the motto of the podcast for me. But yeah, telling stories is immensely important. And again, I think that's why Revelation says it. I mean, we're saved by the blood of the Lamb, for sure. But then the word of our testimonies, I think, is added because you get to see other people's struggles. You know, North Point Church, for example, does their baptismals, right? And before everybody gets baptized, they do a highly, highly, highly produced, 2-minute, 3-minute testimonial. A highly produced. I mean, black room, nice music, all the things that you would want produced really well to tell why did that person decide to put their faith and trust in Jesus. Why did he do it? Because testimonies are powerful. 100%. Testimonies are powerful. And so I think letting your viewers see that, it's something I agree with too. I'm starting a project now out of the studio for the Emerald Coast Children's Advocacy Center. It's a group that I love to work with. My wife serves on the board there. Nice. We've supported them for a number of years now, and really just found them not that long ago. I mean, just a few years back, and love what they do. They bring in children in our area. You may be familiar with them. These kids come into their facilities and they end up telling the disclosure, and they house the police and the DAs and the counseling and all of these things that they house inside their center, but they're telling how they were abused, most of the time sexually, by somebody that they trusted. There was a family member or some trusted family associated with the family, and they're disclosing that, and they have medical facilities and all of this in their center. And I've had an opportunity to tour that center, and I just feel the Holy Spirit in there when I walk through, because I know He's, when you have a kid that something like that's done to them at such a young age, and they don't even know what sex is, how do they recover from that? And they have tools and resources and counseling that continue on, but it's not easy, and so how can I work with them? And so I am creating a series with them and with their help as well, and we're creating a series to try to tell those stories and be a storyteller to help really put a spotlight on that group and what they're doing. And so those are the things that excite me, is being a storyteller about
if we can be
things.
If we can be of help with that, we
will.
For
sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't know if I can hear some of those stories. 'Cause I
hear
know
you.
too many special forces guys nowadays. And,
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, you work in that world, right?
Well, I know too many guys now that I would just could give a call up to.
Yeah, say, hey, we need to take care of this dude. We need to take care of this dude. Yeah.
That's the one thing. It's one of the toughest. My wife likes to watch those like documentaries and stuff like that. I'm like, turn that crap off. I can't hear that.
I know.
I have 4 little babies that.
It's a tough. Those stories are hard to hear, but we can't ignore them. Right? We can't ignore them because they happen, and we need people that'll sit in those rooms and listen, and we need people that'll do that. I mean, like Walton County Sheriff. I mean, Michael Atkinson's a big supporter of the Emerald Coast Children Advocacy Center, and that group does that. And Okaloosa County does that. Between Okaloosa and Walton County, I think it's 1,600 kids a year that come through that center. Just let that sit for a second. 1,600 kids a year. Julie Porterfield, who runs the center there at the Emerald Coast Children's Advocacy Center, she says that she's going to retire when there's no more, when her job's retired. I love that.
It's a good woman.
I love that. That's hard to do, to sit in there and deal with that. So it's hard. But somebody's got to do it. There's got to be a resource. And so but I like partnering with people like that and hearing those stories and getting those stories out. Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Man, you're welcome. Today. Thank you for having me. It's quite been a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed it. It's an honor to be here.
I look forward to helping your podcast get better.
Man, I want to get you guys on my podcast. Get you on, get Eddie on, whatever. I'd love to have you guys do something cross. Let's get something on.
You name it. We'll come on.
I'd love it.
And then swapping notes, man. I feel like I still don't know.
Me
really
too.
Feel like I know what I'm doing.
Same.
There's a lot that I need to grow in with podcasting. So
same.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Out.
Hey, what's up, guys? So today's episode is brought to you by our proud sponsor, Elevated Silence. This is one of my favorite sponsors, not only because Jim Hood is a very dear, close friend of mine. He's been on this podcast several times, but because I am an avid user of this product. As you guys know, I love to go to the range. I love to train civilians and law enforcement. And this is the suppressor that I use each and every time I go to the range. I can tell you this, every time I bring it out, I get nothing but compliments of just how quiet it is. People are always looking for these differences in suppressors. They want it lightweight, but with lightweight, it's probably going to be a little bit louder. The heavier the weight, it's going to be quieter. And I think Jim has found the perfect combination of both, which is why I love this suppressor. He makes everything from 22 to 300 Norma. So if you guys are looking for a suppressor for your rifle or pistol, be sure to check Elevated Silence out. Use the code SMS15 to get 15% off. And also he has some awesome merch for these red hats and this red shirt right now. If you purchase it, a percentage of the proceeds goes to the American Suppressor Association, which will defend your rights to be able to use suppressors as you should, as any American should. All right. Thank you and God bless.